Hello and welcome back to Late Night Music Theory with your host, me. Here we have our third and final part of Appetite for Disaster. Now, we're going to spare the story time like we did previously because we really need to get into it and we somehow need to find a way to go even deeper into the lore and knowledge that we expressed in part two, that we were supposed to be going deeper than we did in part one. So, with none further ado, let's get into the video. And that is how the track starts us off. It's going to be ominous based off of how the tone of that is going. Of course, I didn't give it to you a 10 out of 10 accuracy as I hear it in the song. I'm just giving you the best that I can give you with what I got. But what actually is going on in that song at the first instance, from the start of the song to the 6 second mark, I noted as it being kind of an insidious intent. It's, to me, when I listen to it, it is me imagining somebody crawl out of a cellar. That type of horror and bone chilling. It may not be horror to you, horror to me. Of just watching that happen, that imagery, that darkness that really just sets in. And it's the fact that it's coming in with what I just did in a lower, more huskier tone. And that's it. Along with that insidious intent in strong imagery that I noted at the top of the track, it immediately is used to transition into the first verse that gives us: we both go blind if we go eye for eye. Appetite for disaster. Save your life, please. I'ma need anesthesia. Don't pull the plug. What's more shocking than that? You so turned up. You go on in 5, live in 5 minutes. I don't know your lines, but I get the picture. Lights on you, showtime. I'll keep your liquor warm as possible, cause you slip up when you sip up. It's a little bit of a tongue twister. And to say it that fast, mind you, she is a rapper. Well, yes. She is rapping all of these things. And she's beautifully doing it with her voice being so clear and enunciating every part of this. And so from that, I say the mind games have officially commenced. Because with the top of that verse of her saying, we both go blind if we go eye for eye, not only is she recognizing the fact that what I'm currently doing to get my way of revenge or whatever my get back is, it will be not only catastrophic for us, but it will always also blow back on me. She's also realizing that there is a different game that I can play to get the gains that I want. And along with that, when I listen to it, it kind of feels as though there is a play by play of what's happening. When I say a play by play, I literally mean there is a play by play in the setting in my head is a play. These are two roles that they're playing, giving the reference to you go on in 5, live in 5 minutes. Almost giving there is a Broadway production or something happening, and these two are going at it in the lines. I'm reading all these things that you're trying to say. I don't quite get it, but I understand you enough, as we've had in the past ones, where I can read between your lies and I know what you are right now is a facade. Not only are you putting up one for me, but you're putting up one for everybody that interacts with you. Come on now. We're getting into those moments. And so, how we can get one up on you without coming at you physically is by forcing you to show your hand without you even knowing it. Hence the final line of I'll keep your liquor warm as possible because you slip up when you sip up. That line brought me into a rabbit hole, if you will, of trying to figure out, well, why specifically does this liquor need to be warm? What comes from that? What does that mean? By looking that up, it brought me to the fact that it is a myth. It is a widely accepted misconception that warm or hot liquor is prone to getting you drunk faster or it has more of an effect. However, along with some other sources on the eastern side of the world, it says that there is actual tradition and there's culture in serving hot liquor. And it goes into specifically, now I will butcher this because I believe this was German. Mixology magazine for bar culture. Of course, I'm going to have the name below so you can see what I'm saying because you may be like, oh, yeah, it says for bar culture, magazine for bar culture, duh. But the way that it's read, I don't know. I don't speak German. So, who knows? But some like it hot, the origins of a warm cocktail. And that article goes pretty extensive on where that thought came from. Like I was saying, it's very cultural, it holds historical moments. But also from experts, they say that hot liquor is much like drinking tea, to the same effect, where somebody is not going to drink a cup of hot tea and immediately start on the next one. They're going to sit, they're going to ruminate with it. And then when you give it time for everything to settle, then you may make yourself a second cup. Now that imagery goes into what hot liquor stands for. They were saying that you can't just drink 1 pint, 1 cup of this and then move on and say, all right, I want another round. You got to let that sit. So even though that's not directly saying that it's hitting you harder than a cold, it is also still saying that it is more effective. So we have a little bit of both going on, where is this a myth, while also this does hold cultural significance, historical significance as well. And two truths could be right at the same time. We've yet to know. Maybe one day I'll report back and say either hot liquor is indeed something that affects you way harder, or I'll just be like, it's all the same. Who knows? As we move on through the rest of the song, it feels as though not only are we addressing maybe the partner, but we are addressing some other entity, whether that be somebody on the team, somebody in label, somebody who's doubting her capabilities. Because it is then going on to say, put some respect on my name, like I said. Baby, go break a leg. Baby, go break a leg. Put some respect on my name, like I said. Baby, go break a leg. Baby, go break a leg. And then, of course, as we know a song would, it takes us right into the chorus. And while I may pause and dissect the pre-chorus to talk about it before we get into the chorus, I feel as though it's important to take in consideration everything. So we're going from break into a leg to saying, you and I, face to face, here's a taste of the show. You a lie, F-O-H, fake, blowing smoke. I, the next entertainer. I, the next entertainer. Almost like this is a manifestation, if you will, a proclamation that I am on track to being what I envision myself to be. But you are getting in my way of doing things because she herself is the next entertainer. Now, what that can also serve to do is introduce a new act of the song. Because right after that, we go into a different line of subject matter. Specifically, where we get into a line of you play trombone or just blow up my phone. I think that's a really subtle nod to the fact of a ringtone, if you will, but it also gives a jumping board for her to play around within the song as she expertly does, where she uses that to reference Dizzy Gillespie, specifically his cheeks, where he had a genetic difference of having enlarged cheek muscles that were then used to play the trombone and have that extra room of air to really do things that couldn't be done before with that instrument and bringing about new grounds of music and nuance within jazz. That was his impact. But in the confines of this song, it's a subtle nod to what came before her. Well done. But what I could also take from that is them having this enlarged cheek, this enlarged air to then do these things with this instrument, right? Right? Walk with me. You have all this air, all this room, but we're now associating this with this partner and we're making this nod of reference of a historical figure into a diss to somebody where they're just blowing up their phone. And I take that as you have so much air, you have so much critiques to say about me privately, but when it comes into the public, you seem to tense up. Or when somebody defends, you tend to tense up and you don't want to talk about or say the nasty things that you said about me when it's all come back to you. Hence the line coming back by saying, let's hear you touch the subject, the microphone's on. Since you have so much to critique about me, let me see you do what I do, but better. Let me hear you nay. While this song is going into, of course, because rapping is not new to my girl, but the pacing and artistry that she's doing within this EP in showing off her range. And this isn't her full range. I don't think that this is all that she's capable of, but what she has shown us that she's capable of has been so expansive and so diverse that along with it going back into I am the next entertainer, put some respect on my name, this song is also serving as not only a war of mind games that she's willing to commit to, but also a warning to outsiders to be aware of how dynamic she is within the music industry and within her own set of capabilities that she knows herself to be good at doing. Do not try her. Do not disrespect her on the grounds of her musicality because she has shown you within not only just these 3 tracks but past projects of the level of commitment that she is willing to put in to really serve to you the EP that she has served to us as a simple what class? Appetite for Disaster. So as the track concludes, we get a similar feeling to that insidious intent that I said earlier in the song with that lower husky voice being like, what is about to go down? What is about to be said? But here at the 2 minute and 6 second mark, where it's concluding, We're getting something similar as the beginning, but we're getting it with a much brighter voice. It feels as though everything has been gotten off my chest. I am resetting. I am getting to being at peace. Because, like, before, we were just being in reactance. We were just questioning ourselves. We were questioning things around us. But now we've gotten everything off our chest and we're feeling a little bit more content with ourselves. And so, as that goes on, that voice, that brighter voice that gets that feeling that I was saying, it gets snuffed out completely. And then it's just left. Oh. And then we get Too Late. Now, this track specifically, it's very focused on yodeling type of techniques. And I did a quick little Google search on the purpose of yodeling and what that does. And it originally was sourced in communicating across mountains and valleys. Now, I knew a little bit about yodeling, but the very broad American spectrum of it all, I did not know that these people were out here talking across mountains and valleys, and that's how it was initially done. And through that turned into musical aspect, voice, singing. It then became its famous thing. I don't know currently now, but the last memory I have of somebody yodeling, they used to say, if you can yodel, you better show up and show out because you can get a scholarship for that. Now, I don't know if that's still true. I don't know if yodeling's as valued as it once was. It probably still is. But I don't know if it still has that type of status. Anyways, so as that concept really takes shape in the song Too Late, with it originally being sourced in communicating across mountains and valleys, it could also be, I am screaming out to the world that you are too late. There is no chance for us. There's no chance for us to come back. You're too late. And then the song goes in, you're too late, you're too late, you're too late, you're too late. Imagine me singing that and then yodeling on top of that. It's a little bit, wow. It's a nice listening experience. And that's what we're going to keep going to every single time that I'm going over this project. It is an amazing, astounding, if you will, listening experience. If you really put it in, it's going to give it to you every single time. We're talking about Appetite for Disaster. Stop that. Now you may be asking yourself, well, Khalil, what is sparking this need to scream this at the top of her lungs on these mountaintops for the whole world to hear that this person is too late? Well, I'll tell you what it is. Exactly what it is. The crowd gonna sing what it is. What it is the fact that I think between Impala, FOH, and Too Late, there was a separation. I'm going back to LA. LA was gone back to. FOH is being in whatever I'm being in right now. But I gotta let y'all know I'm not the one to play with. Too Late, they somehow either weaseled their way back in. Actually, I'm a bit more adamant to the idea that there was weaseling happening in this moment, because throughout the song Too Late, and I'm getting ahead of myself, we're gonna get there, but in the song Too Late, there are moments of manipulation being used to get them to come back. So there is weaseling happening. There is finagling happening. There is swindling happening. And if you've watched, I think it's called The Swindle on Nickelodeon, that movie, you know what I'm talking about. But we know Iyla's track record right now. Throughout the songs, there's always going to be brief moments of honesty and accountability that's going on with things, even if it's not the feelings that we need to be feeling right now. It's in fact what's happening right now, and we have to be okay with that. Because throughout the moments and times of the partner saying, "Hey, I'm back now, why don't we get back together?" And she's saying, "No, you're too late." What comes with that rage within screaming to the top of your lungs, no, also comes with that release that we were saying earlier, can be angry. Because what is coming out of this strong reaction? Honesty. There was sadness. Like I said, there was something there. She gave part of herself to this relationship. There were real strings attached to this love that you took for granted, and now you want to come back and act like everything is just peachy now that you've changed. But we don't even know yet if you've changed. He'll never change. So we can see these moments and instances emerge as we get more into the song. Here we have our first verse. "I was willing to ride with you on your high horse. You think I'ma believe this is my loss. Idols turn to rivals, predator to prey, not the kind of energy I'm trying to waste. You don't get that type of luxury. It's not my job to turn a boy into a man. Pick up where you left off. I'm not the one to be slept on. Made your bed, now sleep in that. How it feel without me. You can't get me back. You realized what's gone. And now you want to try and get me. Like them trying to lock me up." And you see how that verse really puts a nail in the coffin of those ideas where the partner is essentially trying to get them to come back, weasel their way in, figure out how to get back into the relationship, into the relationship, into the relationship, into the relationship. Well, into the relationship. If somebody makes that into a rave edit one day, any day, call me. I don't know how y'all can do it, but I know somebody can make a good edit out of that. And you remember that honesty that I was telling you about? That's also taking shape in this song where we get lines of, "I was always in your corner. I wasn't supposed to be an organ donor, but I gave you my heart over and over." She was in it. Like I've been saying before, and I'm going to continue saying, she was in it. They weren't. They weren't allowing themselves to be loved, and they weren't loving her back. And now you want to come back up in here. But even though you're trying to, these are my feelings. These are how you hurt me. These kind of make me sad. I don't know if it could be triggering. I would say it is triggering if based off of what we've previously dissected holds weight in the fact that I believe she was love bombed. But what really makes this song that much more intensive, especially when it comes to the storytelling of it all, is not necessarily the intentionality behind conveying the message that I no longer am in it and you can't get me back. It's in the pre-chorus that takes us into You're Too Late that's saying, "Only lonely, lonely, lonely loves the lonely. Only lonely, lonely loves the lonely, lonely." Another tongue twister for me. I'm sorry. I'm not a rapper. That sentiment really brings in the storytelling of it all, where it is key to knowing that there is grief happening within the song. Even though I am no longer with you, my love right now is still lonely. Okay, getting to the top is lonely. Evolving can be lonely and scary sometimes because it's just you. It's me, myself, and I is all I got in the end. And tell them. So that loneliness in regard to her love is expressed within the song, but also, if we think about it from the top, when I said the intentionality and technique originally sourced in yodeling is communicating in the mountains, in the valleys, in the woods. What is known with nature in the woods, in the mountains? Solitude. Solitude and isolation from other beings. Not only is she saying the love she has is lonely, the intentionality behind saying the exact statement, I am not, you can't get me to be back in this relationship. However, I'm still going to address the fact that me outside of this relationship is lonely in this moment. And you see how she ate that? You see how she addressed that she was lonely, but also kept to her priorities of saying, even though I'm by myself and it's very uncomfortable right now, I cannot be back in this thing. Come on now. She is the moment. That intentionality on both ends of the spectrum when it comes to addressing the partner as well as addressing herself is really key in understanding how far deep this appetite for disaster truly is. And then we get into our final track, Lost Me. Now, with this track, we're going to start off with She's Honest, I'm Honest. It stumped me a little bit. There's different perspectives happening, and it doesn't necessarily apply to everything per se. Give me some grace. And if you have things that you would like to put two and two together with that I didn't touch on, because like I said, this one is stumping me, let me know so we can really put it together. And here's what I say about this song. If Impala is the living room where they're having this argument and confrontation in, then Lost Me is in the kitchen on the way out. Lost Me feels very passive aggressive, almost in the ways of this is me as I'm leaving outside of this conversation. I'm no longer wanting to have this. I've now been set on my ways. Where Impala was this big fight, X, Y, and Z, here's the reasons why I'm leaving. Okay, now you're voicing how you feel about things. Oh, that affirmed whatever I had going on in my mind. It's time for me to go. And one of your insecurities was talking about how the fact that you are becoming so successful, your opportunity of growth includes and involves meeting and hanging around new people that the partner is unfamiliar with, right? That's the premise of Impala. Now in Lost Me, it's saying, I think that you should worry. I think that you should call 9911. And all of those messages of passive aggression and feeding into the insecurities that were found in Impala is really revolving around the course of Lost Me saying, if you are worried about where I've been and who I saw, if you keep worrying about where I went and how I got off, you should be worried about him who I've been sitting down low on. If you're worried, don't worry, you already lost me. And if we just keep going with the chorus, it's saying, you no longer got me, you're bitter like coffee, dry I like sloppy, you copy, paste, copy, we don't even vibe no more, all you do is lie, rather lie alone. Baby, you worry, yeah, you lost me. This feels like an exit out of the conversation. This feels like everything that you were, like the song says, worried about. What if it was true? What if it was all true? And just like how I was saying, it could be passive aggressive, it's also showing that this person is logical. This person is rational in their reasoning, saying, okay, you know I gave you everything in this relationship. You know that you were the only person that I'm in this for. And you're gonna sit up here and say that I am out here circling the world, getting and could possibly be with all these people. With what time? What time do I have to meet and hang out with these people and become invested in them to any degree? Why do I keep coming back to you? Okay, if I have all this success, then why are we still together? If you are so adamant in thinking that I am out here, just out and about with all types of people and things out here, and that you're not good enough for me, why am I still here? What was keeping me here? If you really think this about me, then riddle me this. Why am I still in the relationship? Why am I still going out of my way to give you this history? I gave my all to you. Just one more night. I'd risk my all to freedom. Just one more. Exactly. I knew what I was saying when I started singing, and then I said if I give myself into singing, then I'm gonna forget, and I just was too in it at that point. I'm sorry. So, along with those thoughts, it really feeds into the note that I made about it being sort of in implications versus actuality type of scenario where it is eating away at the insecurities because of the fact where it's just like, I'm so far removed from this. What if I just throw this out? That's what the song feels like to me. It's just like, oh, I'm so far removed of it. This is how I used to feel. Okay, let's just put it on the track. I like the way it sounds. Now, what adds to that is the fact that the production of the song feels very secretive and sultry. Now, I have to be unbiased, so I cannot factor in the music videos because this is just talking about the song itself. However, the music video does play on to the thoughts that I initially had when listening to this track. It feels very black and white. It plays on to the thought, if we think about it, because Where Lost Me feels secretive, sultry, right? And that being the last track of the EP, the first track of the EP is Mona Lisa, where the point of it was saying, you're doing all these things for me in the dark. Why don't we do these things in the light? And the last track playing on to that exact same game that the partner did on her was saying, this song is going to feel very secretive. I'm being passive aggressive. I'm feeding into your insecurities. And you know what? I'm going to pull a you on you, and it's gonna feel like I'm doing all these things in the dark, and nobody will ever know what actually happened, and that's that on that. But yet, like I said, even going along the theory of pulling a you on the last track as it relates to the first track, really showing how much of a loop that this ends up being. I also, like I said before, don't know really where this track is. I don't think this storyline is linear. I think Lost Me is, if we put all these tracks in historical content of whenever it was made, maybe, I would say Lost Me in the third or fourth track position, but I don't officially know. So it's kind of going to go all over the place with its descriptions, specifically in the chorus when she's feeding into if you are worried if you lost me. It's worthy to note that the production of that song, it feels as though those are echoes. Now, along with those echoes, the song outside of the chorus has a clear voice, almost as if it's co-signing or reinforcing the echoes of doubt that were previously there, as in that's what started the song. And then the clear voice is saying, yeah, and another thing. Now, when it gets to the rest of the song, that's when it becomes more of a gray area on me trying to figure out if the clear voice, like I was saying, that's reinforcing everything, is really showing the cracks, within the situation that was formed in the first place. Now, where I would think that the feature would come in is either to rap from the perspective of, because the rapper in this case is Benny the Butcher, and the way that he was rapping, it neither gave the perspective of the partner or was his version of her position within the situation. It really maneuvered between so many different things. I noted it could possibly be the lover, but also a third party person giving advice, because there are lines of saying, if Iyla ever needs advice, she can come to me. So, who are we? Who are we right now? What are we adding to the story? And then another thing I noted is, was I thinking too hard about it? Could it just be the fact that this is a rap? It's a good rap, but it doesn't really give much more to the storyline than what's already there. I don't know. It could be a slew of things. Like I said, if somebody else has a thought, a theory about it, let's roll with that. Let's see what is going on. But because there is not necessarily the strongest of outline to the intentions behind that, I can't really seem to figure out what that song is representing as far as the feature and what that does for the story of the EP. But there's a line in the track that sticks out to me, as well as it forcing itself within the song to stick out, because it's done its own thing where it's made a bubble around the line. And it's essentially talking about the fact that maybe you lost me, maybe you didn't, who knows. But it's talking about the relationship in a way of saying consequences, rewards, what is it? It's all a facade. Where I'm really trying to figure out, well, it could be the situation, it could be the relationship that is the facade, but I feel as though that question and answer means something more nuanced that I haven't gotten yet, or it hasn't been given to us in the way that it was supposed to be. If you get what I'm saying, maybe something happened, I don't know. But I feel as though this question and answer goes into something much deeper that I'm a little bit stumped on. What does it represent? Does it represent the whole situation? The fact that it's a loop, meaning that this is all just a loop in your head, or the strength that you gave this person, the power that you gave them, that was all you. It was very something that you didn't think about. It's something that you can always walk away from. This isn't a binding contract. It's all a facade. I don't know whether or not it's the development in realizing that you're worth more. Is it a facade that it took them to realize that you're worth more, or you will always know your worth? I don't know. However, with all that being said, I would think that if we take it on face value by the consequences and rewards, what is it? It's all a facade. That could maybe come back to the title, calling it an appetite for disaster. Appetite for disaster, and it's the serving of a piece of cake. Is this your reward for being satiated? Is this your consequence for wreaking this havoc? Who knows? However, what you can say about Appetite for Disaster is the fact that it gave us everything that we needed to know about her at that point in time. Her situation, her versatility as a songwriter, singer, rapper, her history and commitment to the industry and interest that she has cultivated. within referencing past tracks from past projects, referencing musical components that go into different genres that we haven't thought about blending maybe in a while, and then talking about musicians and showing that not only is the musicality there, but the intention is also there. And there's so many different things that you can do with creativity. And that has been Late Night Music Theory with your host. If you have any other theories, if you were going along with what was being put down, feel free to let me know in the comments. If you have any thoughts considering Lost Me or any other plot holes, fill me in on them. And with that, I'll see you next time. All right. Bye bye.